Hello and welcome to Wisdom on Wednesday. I'm here with Ellen and we are on our second video for Wisdom on Wednesday about calming your heart and mind because we are all anxious, right, Ellen? And so today we are talking about finding our peace and our strength in our identities. And we're focusing on the book Living Fearless by Jamie Winship. Will you share a little bit about the book and a little bit about the author?
Yes. So a really book that's easy to read but really deep. And Jamie Winship, he was an award-winning DC officer and also spent 30 years in some of the most dangerous countries he could to raise his own children. So he has quite an interesting background. And he and his wife have started something called the Identity Exchange. And their passion is to see people walking in their true identity. And the book has really spoken really deeply to me. And I would really encourage it as a great read, whether it's a spring or summer. It's a really good read about finding our identities.
Because without having that identity, our bend is to be anxious.
Right.
And so it's really, there's a lot of talk about identities, but how is it, Ellen, that we do find that true identity?
Well, so going back to what Jamie Winship says, he says we first have to figure out what our false identities are. And I think we're told by our culture so many lies. And that very first one is that I am what I do. And my goodness, I can see it in my own life, having falling into the trap of my performance being what matters most and what I am doing and being a busy person and performing. And not that getting a lot done and working hard isn't important, but it does not make me who I am.
Right.
And the second false identity is I am what I own, and that need to always have more and better and comparing ourselves to other people, comparing what we have to other people. And the other one is I am what others think of me. And I see so much of how this plays out in our own lives. We worry about what people think. We worry about how we come across. We're just anxious. So these false identities kind of kill our spirit and that of our kids. And they actually prevent us from hearing the truth from God. And that's what Jamie Winship hones in on. Like, if I really believe that I am what I do, then it's all up to me. That even impacts my co-teaching with my grandkids, because suddenly their performance rests on me being the perfect co-teacher, or whatever it is. There's always something that's going to disqualify me. There's always something I could have done better, always something to grow anxious about.
Yes.
And it's easy to see the one on I am what I own, because even for our kids, always needing to have the next new thing or buying something new or finding the right shoe to kind of create this identity, which is really a false road too. And finally, and I see this happening so much to so many of our students, is I am what others think of me. And that need to kind of make our decisions and what we do based on what we think other people want or what they think of us. It can be such a snare. So anyway, those are the three identities I think we need to first, or any others that we come up with, cleanse our hearts from. Ask the Lord to just kind of wipe our hearts clean from those falsehoods.
That's right. And I think our kids can sense that in us. They can sense when we're not living our true identities, like you said. And it's important for us to have those conversations with our kids, talk about what we struggle with and hear what they're struggling with, so that we can speak into that and know specifically what to pray for. And like you said, you cannot know God truly from a false identity. So it really is hindering our relationship with God when we are living out a false identity.
Well, we kind of guess ourselves through life, and then if we're living in a false identity, we start to repeat the behaviors. If we think, I'm working with one teen girl right now who feels like she's unlovable and rejected, so she starts to act that way, and the more she acts that way, the more she takes on that identity. And so these little habits and daily decisions we make wind up forming our beliefs about ourselves, and the beliefs about ourselves are really the engine that drive us.
That's true. Yes.
So anyway, I think it's really important for all of us to know that God's truth cuts through lies, and that we really cannot help our kids gain a true sense of identity unless we ourselves have also gained one, right?
Right. And so I think that's where we need to ask God, who is it that you've created us to be? Right. And ask for wisdom. You had a verse that you love to hone in on for asking for wisdom.
I love James 1:6-8. It's been my recent go-to verse of ask God for wisdom and he will freely give.
Yes.
Without reproach, and to not doubt. And I realize that identity is so important that why not ask God for who we are, right?
That's exactly right.
He wants us to know how he created us and for what purpose. And so we need to be able to ask. And so this has been a practice I've been trying to do and walk. I've been walking some kids through this, that first of all, we cleanse out our hearts from those false ones. We ask God who we are and we write it down. It's never going to contradict scripture. Mm-hmm. It's not going to be accusatory, but writing that down. In one particular case, this sweet young girl mentioned things like, I am resilient. I can work through these social difficulties, or I am a servant-hearted person. Because kids can think, for example, when you go back to academics, they can say, well, I really want to get all A's, and you have this dream out there. But they can then take on the identity, which is what drives it, as I am a conscientious student, right? Or perhaps a child has not been chosen to be a starter on a soccer or a basketball team. And they can say, but I am a hard worker. I will practice and hone this skill. That they take on the identity that brings them to the point of the person they're wanting to become.
That's right.
Right? So I think that there's two questions that Jamie Winship points that we should ask every day. So I've been trying to practice this, and it's been kind of cool. In prayer time, I ask him, what is it that you want me to know, Lord? And what is it you want me to do? And it's been really fun to then sit quietly and listen to that, particularly in regards to what he wants me to know about him and what he wants me to know about me.
That's right.
So that I can walk forward in the way that he has called me to walk. And that is my hope for all of our kids, that we are able to point them in the direction that actually gives them life and where they're going to find that flourishing.
That's right. And, if we don't have that moment of quiet and we don't make space for that, then we're not able to hear it, and we're not able to then live out our true identity. So we need to do that for ourselves. And also encourage our kids to have those moments that they're not whirling and they're not so busy that they're not spending time listening to God, and they're making that. And that's why I love that practice, because you actually have to physically sit down and listen and be reflecting on that.
So I've been working, one of the follow-up is that I've been working with this particular girl and asking how it's going. Mm-hmm. That is she walking forward and developing habits that relate to the qualities that she sees God has called her to. She listed 4 that were really great, and it's been really fun because she's focused there rather than on the fears. Because when we're operating in a false identity, we're also operating out of fear, and we're driving decisions from the wrong lens. So I would say, in kind of closing, maybe the greatest aim of our discipleship with our kids is to, of course, help them to know God, but then to find out what their true identity is. And reading this book is a great way to start, so that we can kind of help our kids hone their beliefs about themselves, which really drives the direction they take.
I love that. Yeah. And I love the idea, if you have, kids around that are a little older, reading it alongside them, and then being able to, all of you, uncover what your identity is would be a really neat process for a family as well. Well, thank you for joining us, and we look forward to